Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newcastle City Council regular meeting for June 3rd. The time is 7 o'clock. I'm Mayor Clark presiding. This meeting is being broadcast on our YouTube channel, and it is also being recorded for later viewing. A reminder, if you would like to do public comment, please go over to the table and sign up on the sheet. That's how you will call you from those sheets. There's 2 sheets, one for now and one for later. Please rise and join us in the flag salute. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Quick.
Here.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lacotia.
Here.
And Mayor Clark.
Here.
All here, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Next up is agenda approval. Are there any desired changes or alterations to tonight's agenda? Yes. go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, Mayor. I just want to let everybody know we need to amend our agenda. So we need to add item for about getting a flag for our city because I will be representing Newcastle to attend the Washington Association's conference, annual conference. So so many cities last year when I attended. So many cities
hold
they
on.
had, yeah.
So you're making a motion to add?
Yes.
That's all you need to do?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, Councilman Burford. Do you want to add anything else about that? Or what, it's been moved and seconded? Do you want to add any more comments?
Yeah, I just want to say it was a really, really eye-opening experience. Also, a lot of people, they don't know about our Newcastle. They don't know we as a city. And it's about awareness, and also it's a part of our city's identity. Identity matters. And also, I had a meeting with our manager previously, only $200 to get our city's
Let
flag.
me interrupt you there. So we have a motion and a second. We can, if it's
Yeah.
approved,
Oh, sure.
we can talk about it
Yeah,
later.
thank you.
So it's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Sherlock, do you want to add anything? Moved and seconded to add an agenda item to create a city flag for Newcastle. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, motion 4-3, so that'll be agenda item 11.5, discussion of a city flag. Okay, are there any other desired changes or alterations to tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, show the agenda approved as modified with an additional general business item. Next up is public comment. The city clerk will hand me the sign-up sheet. If you'd like to make a public comment, and I'll call you to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to state whatever you'd like to say. The buzzer will sound. We'll ask you to conclude your comments at that point. Please state your name and neighborhood when you get to the podium. Thank you, City Clerk.
Mayor, can we have the city attorney make a statement?
Yes, excuse me, I forgot. We're going to get used to that now. City Attorney, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, the city is in election season, and I've been asked to provide comments regarding state law as it relates to the use of public facilities and election campaigns. In short, state law RCW 42.17a.555 prohibits the use of public facilities to assist in a campaign for election of any person to office or to support or oppose a ballot proposition. The Public Disclosure Commission is the state agency with jurisdiction to enforce this statute. The Public Disclosure Commission interprets the statute very broadly to include a prohibition on using the public comment period during an agency's public meeting for these purposes. This applies to council member comments during a public meeting as well. To avoid any potential violation of this statute, please refrain from making comments that support or oppose a candidate for office or a ballot measure. Please have your comments address issues relating to city business or city functions, not campaign or election issues. This includes references to election or campaign materials such as letters, flyers, or similar communications. Thank you. The city thanks you for keeping your remarks focused on city issues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Attorney. Okay, back to public comment. I'll start off the list here. First up is Lissa Johnson. Lissa.
Hello, my name is Lissa Johnson. I'm with Winfield Ridge. I would like to share these updates on the tool development in our neighborhood. Despite the fact that construction on that steep slope is dangerous and against code, the city staff gave variances to the developer so they could get their building permits. Despite the fact that the developer's original proposal did not include a through street, the city staff approved a final design with a dangerous through street. Despite the fact that our council members were ready to vote in favor of a fire gate, the city staff stopped the vote at the last second. Despite the fact that the city staff, which lives outside of Newcastle, claims to care about the well-being of Newcastle's residents, we have not seen any of them on our street. If the city staff had been on our street recently, they would have seen the homeless man with his shield and bow and arrow walking to the new homeless shelter through our neighborhood. If the city staff had been on our street recently, they would see the incredibly loud construction that looks nothing like what was promised by the developer. If our elected leaders were doing their job instead of pandering for votes with proclamations about this month and that month, maybe our kids would be able to play outside and ride their bikes. Please come visit our street and see what's happening. We're begging you to help us.
Thank you, Lissa. So I appreciate your comments, Lissa. I will add a comment of my own that we would ask you that, we know that you disagree with the staff. We understand that, right? It's a point of contention, and we understand your frustration, but we would ask you to, be more, how do I say, gentle with your comments towards the staff. If you have any questions, comments, please contact one of the city council members, and we'll be glad to talk to you. I know I will, okay? And I'll be glad to talk to you after this meeting about it, too, okay? All right, next up, Yu Wu. I'm sorry if I said that wrong.
Hello, my name is Yue Wu, and I also live in Winfield Ridge, and I'm Lisa's neighbor. So my wife and I just have a 18-month girl, and it is our first baby. So right now, I'm so worried about the safety, and I feel uncomfortable to let my baby play in our backyard because there are a lot of curves just next to my fence, and I think it is very dangerous. And yeah, that's it. And please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Villasenor. Chris?
Good evening. I'm Chris Villasenor, and I live in the Hazelwood neighborhood. I would like to address a statement made last meeting by Councilmember Griffin, who, in explaining why he did not support the pride flag raising, stated, "This is a social problem, and governments are not supposed to deal in social issues." I strongly disagree. Governments have the power and resources to enact policies and programs that address social issues, like poverty, inequality, discrimination. They can also use their influence to advocate for change and create a more just and equitable society. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to our Constitution, deal almost exclusively with social issues. Our elected officials on the Newcastle City Council are here to represent the needs and values of this city. There's nothing more social than that. Our City Council should willfully and joyfully recognize Lunar New Year, Hindu Heritage Month, and the other observances and celebrations that represent our diverse community. It's a shame we need a resolution to celebrate citizens who make up the broad tapestry of our community.
Thank you. Carol Simpson.
Hi, good evening, council members. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Carol Simpson. I live at the Lakeview Apartments in Newcastle. I wanted to thank Councilmember Burford for bringing up the necessity of having a city flag. The city had a flag. I think it's lost. The flag has always had the city emblem that you see around here on the flag, and it was taken to many Association of Washington Cities meetings and conferences. The Association of Washington Cities is your professional association. In 2008 and 2009, the city paid for all 7 members of the city council to attend the Association of Washington Cities meetings, and all 7 went. That's where council members learn your jobs. There's lots of study sessions and breakout groups to learn all aspects of finance, budgeting, public works, anything else the city does. They have a lot of, even public, Ann McFarland teaches parliamentary procedure, which was always a great course to take there. I was glad, a little bit embarrassed, but we all did it. There's 271 cities, and all the cities who were there have a parade of flags. And they are all cities are individually introduced, and they all get up with their flag, and then all the cities parade around the room with their city flags, and then all the city flags are on stands around the room. This is the pride and identity of each city. And it's really interesting to see all the different city flags and the emblems that they have all adopted to represent their cities. So it's important. Might cost, I don't know, $50 to $100 maybe to have a flag made with our emblem again so that it can be used, flown on the flagpole, flown at Newcastle Days and events the city holds, and taken to the Association of Washington Cities conference. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any online commenters? No? Okay, that concludes the first public comment. A reminder, there is a second one later on. We have no ceremonial presentations. On to council comment. Councilmember Burford, go ahead and start us out.
Thank you everyone for coming, and happy summer. Summer is really, today is like summer's weather. And I just want to thank everyone who just made public comments. And for the new development area, I plan to go there, take a look and visit, even though you just left the room. So I heard you, I see you, and thank you. And also, thank you so much for Councilmember Simpson, former Councilmember Simpson. So let us know, because I even didn't know we did have a city's flag. So last year I did ask about it, and we didn't know we actually had one. So thank you for educating us about our council's history. And I'm so glad to hear that all our council members, everybody attended in 2008 and 2009, I think, if I heard you correctly. So thank you for capturing the moment and also what the city flag is about. I feel strongly that AWC is our professional organization. Last year, I didn't pay anything as a new participant. They gave me scholarship. So I think it's really invaluable professional development time throughout the conference, and I learned a ton. And also, it was so exciting to see and to learn there are a lot of cities I didn't even know they existed. So many cities. They got to present their city and participate, and every city's flag got displayed throughout the conference. So it's about our identity. So I thank my fellow council member who voted yes, who agreed. Thank you so much. Also, I just want to say I appreciate you all. 谢谢.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. I just had a quick update on, thank you to council for honoring sort of my request to send the letter of support to Fairfax Behavioral Health Services for a crisis center on the east side. They got back to me and we're very appreciative of that. So I just want to give folks an update on that. Not much else to report. Happy summer and appreciate folks for coming.
Councilmember Quigg, any comments? No comments? Okay. Councilmember Griffin, any comments?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Welcome to all the people. And I have no other comment than that. I enjoy having the people here in our meeting with us. Thank you for coming.
Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. My apologies. I did not mean to skip you.
Oh.
Please, And I'll come back to you. Councilmember Sherlock. Well,
Thank you,
My
Mayor.
apologies.
Sorry. Just happy Pride, happy summer. I look forward to celebrating this weekend at Lake Bourne Park with everyone.
okay, so, sorry. Now Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to say good evening. Thank you for coming. No comments.
And it's no comments from me either. So moving right along, we have our end of legislative session report. City Manager, you will take the introductions, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As they come up, I just wanted to introduce our state lobbyist, Shelley Helder. She'll start us off before handing it off to Representative Zahn. Shelley will give us a brief end-of-session report, and Representative Zahn will add some comments and information, and then the council will be free to ask questions.
Good evening. Good to be with you all. My name is Shelley Helder. I have the privilege of serving as the City of Newcastle's state lobbyist, representing your interests in Olympia during this past legislative session. As you all know, the session just ended, and so I'm here tonight to provide a brief summary of some of the significant outcomes as they relate to the city and your priorities. And as the city manager mentioned, I'm going to try to keep my comments as brief as possible so I can leave time for Representative Zahn to share with you all the work that she did on your behalf. Thank you. So the 2025 session was the first year of a 2-year legislative session or legislative cycle. The first year is always 105 consecutive days. And the first year is longer because the objective is to adopt the new biennial budgets, and the legislature did so. The new operating budget is $77.8 billion. It leaves $2.3 billion in reserves and relies on $4.3 billion in new revenue. The capital budget is $7.5 billion, and for comparison purposes, the last biennial budget was $9 billion, so this is actually a smaller capital budget than we had 2 years ago. And the transportation budget is $15.5 billion. It balances because projects that were previously promised funding in this upcoming biennium had their funding pushed into the future, and there was new revenue generating $3.2 billion over the next 6 years. In addition to adopting the new budgets, the legislature also considered several thousand pieces of policies. 2,387 bills were introduced, 421 passed into law. And because this is the first year of the biennium, any bill that was introduced but did not pass is automatically reintroduced in the second year of the session. Democrats maintained strong majorities in the legislature, both the House and the Senate. This past session, there were 59 to 39 in the House and 30 to 19 in the Senate. Of the 147 legislators, there were 24 freshman legislators this year. And 2025 also marked the beginning of Governor Bob Ferguson's first term in office. So the city had 5 priorities for this legislative biennium. And in the first year of the biennium, we were successful in accomplishing several of those priorities. Due to the leadership of our 41st district legislators, so Senator Wellman, Representative Zahn, who is of course here with us this evening, and Representative Tai, the city was awarded $335,000 for the Lake Boring Park North End access improvements. This outcome would not have been possible without their support and their advocacy for this project. In the new revenue that was adopted by the legislature for state transportation needs, they included a small percentage of funding that will be directly shared with cities and counties for general transportation needs. So that was one of the things that we had requested, and it's not a huge sum of money, but it is some money that they recognized local governments have needs for maintenance and preservation as well. We were successful in passing House Bill 1791, which will now allow the city to dedicate real estate excise tax revenues towards regional affordable housing projects that are not in the city limits. Previously, they had to be in the city limits in order to use REIT dollars. And it's a relatively small change, but it required really significant collaboration and coordination with stakeholders to make that possible. The passage of this policy was because of the leadership of the 41st District. This concept was introduced in a separate bill, and because it had been considered by the committee, they ended up incorporating it into a bill that ended up passing the legislature. So again, your legislators listened to what priorities you all identified and worked on those on your behalf. There will always be more work to do in the arena of behavioral health, but the legislature did pass House Bill 1811, which creates training pathways for co-responders to kind of grow that workforce. The legislature also allocated $4 million in grants for cities who are interested in creating an alternative response program. And last but not least, the legislature passed House Bill 2015, which creates a local option, a new local option sales tax authority for jurisdictions to use towards criminal justice purposes. The operating budget also included $100 million for jurisdictions to support law enforcement hiring. So that was a very brief, high-level summary, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Representative Zahn about more of the details that she worked on. But I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to be here with you this evening and for the privilege of representing the city at the state level. Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Janice Zahn. I was appointed on day 10 into the 41st Legislative District representing the city of Newcastle. And I will say that I kept a copy of your priorities on my desk. And after I settled in with the first month and how things, the cadence and whatnot, I really appreciate your lobbyist, Shelley. We started meeting every week just to check in, to make sure that I understood as the bills were moving in the legislature, which ones you wanted to make sure we were pushing hard and which one were problematic that we wanted to make sure that we understood what was in those bills and how it was moving. She talked about the capital budget and the money for the Lake Warren Park. Actually had an opportunity to visit the cemetery on Memorial Day and be able to see that that park and having a parking there would support that. The only local project that I submitted for transportation was the May Creek project for $900,000. Unfortunately, as Shelley talked about, we were challenged with the amount of budget that was needed for transportation, so that project did not get funded. We were able to make sure that the 405 widening project that directly impacts the ability for Newcastle residents to get in and out of the city was fully funded for completion. The transportation budget, we actually delayed about $1 billion worth of projects just to make sure that we had or deferred them into out years to make sure that we had enough reserve to pay for the projects that we already had under contract, as well as the Fish Passage project, because we wanted to make sure we were not coming back to the community looking for more money for those projects. I would say that the other thing I believe that you might have heard is that we did do a resolution honoring Tony Ventrella, who was on the city council for Newcastle in April. And I believe that I gave a copy of that, right, so that you would have a copy here at City Hall. And the other couple of things I do want to mention is that I was on the local government, housing, capital budget, and transportation committees. So with local government and housing, a couple of other things that to make you aware of is that one of the bills that was passed actually on the last day was a lot splitting bill that will have requirements for cities to look at updating the codes to allow the ability for property owners to be able to split their lot. There was a bill related to what cities are allowed to do related to minimum parking. It is only for cities with population 30,000 or greater, so the city of Newcastle will not be part of that provision. We also passed a transit-oriented development bill, which it also included a definition for the frequent transit stops to make it really clear, because we had heard from Issaquah that there are some challenges in the previous bills related to how you define frequent transit networks. So I believe that that bill is also one that will have very small impact, if at all, to the city of Newcastle. That's one that to learn more about. The other one that I think will be relevant to Newcastle is there's a bill we passed 5148 that is related to the Growth Management Act housing element compliance. So the Department of Commerce will be required every year to review X number of comp plans to make sure that those housing elements are in compliance with the Growth Management Act. So those are some things that I think would be relevant to the city of Newcastle. We also included $600 million in the Housing Trust Fund to help fund affordable housing projects. That I think is important. One of the bills that I had hoped to pass this year that did not move, but we're hoping it is still alive for next year, is a revolving low-interest loan program so that affordable home ownership developers are able to get a low interest rate of 1 to 2.5% to be able to build affordable housing, recognizing that cities cannot do that alone, that just despite all your efforts with land use and permitting and whatnot, not having a subsidy and funding will be a challenge to be able to meet your affordable housing goals. A couple of other things that I do want to point out. I don't know if this will be relevant for the city of Newcastle. We also passed a bill related to childcare facilities because apparently there are cities where childcare facilities are limited in where they can be sited. So Senate Bill 5509 describes the fact that other than industrial areas, childcare facilities are outright permitted, and any updates to your code to make sure that that happens. Let's see, what else do I want to bring up? This one may also be one that's relevant to the city of Newcastle. House Bill 1543 is a clean building standard compliance bill. And what we had heard is, especially for school districts, they are going to be challenged with limited funding to be able to update their buildings to meet the clean building standard. So this particular bill gives the ability to have extensions be approved so that recognizing that we might be short of funding, the clean building standards compliance date will be able to be extended so that we don't create an issue where, despite our best efforts, cities or school districts are not able to meet the compliance and then they get penalized for not meeting the clean building standard. And I think maybe I'll just stop there and see what questions that you have.
Thank you, Janice and Shelley. Is there questions from council for either Janice or Shelley? Councilor Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming. So I did warn Shelley ahead of time I was going to ask this. So for the House Bill 1811, talking about co-responders for mental health workers with our police force. So I think a little bit of context I wanted to provide on this was that I talked with our police chief, Steve Kajihiro, about it, and he was very supportive of the idea, as well as, I worked to get it added to both our legislative agenda and our long-term strategic plan as a city. So I guess I didn't entirely understand the funding aspect that was incorporated with 1811. I know it was looking at 988 crisis funding. Essentially, we have access to some co-responders via our contract with King County Sheriff's Office. And I've talked with Brooke Burtner, who is the executive director for the North Crisis Response Group, which is a collaboration of 5 cities up north King County that have this model. And I guess My question is just for us as a small city, looking at this as a goal going forward, is there ways for us to access that money? Is there ways for us to should we try to collaborate with other entities to try to get sort of better access to co-response? And just, I'd love to hear any general thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, so let me start with, one of the biggest goals of this bill is to broaden what's considered crisis response to include behavioral health responders. So that's actually one of the pieces. The other one is this requires the University of Washington School of Social Work to develop a crisis responder training academy so that we're actually building the pipeline of those co-responders. And in addition to that, when Shelley earlier talked about House Bill 1215 for law enforcement, it's actually the broader scope of community safety that you could use those funds for. So we have a local option for, I'm looking for this, local law enforcement grants, but that actually is a broad definition that can include co-responder models to be able to be funded. So you can choose to do a councilmanic small increase if you so choose to be able to fund some of those resources, or you can apply to the grants that are available at the state level to be able to offer some of those services. But I would think the biggest thing here is actually including and expanding what is considered first responders to include the mental health and behavioral health professionals, if that helps. I can also commit to doing a bit more work with the staff and connecting you to the actual OPR policy staff so that they can better answer your questions. I was not actually on that committee, so I probably did not fully describe everything. Do you have something? Oh, great.
That, I was just going to say, Representative Zahn described it really well. I think what I would really highlight is that Association of Washington Cities was awarded $4 million by the operating budget to provide grants for communities to stand up the programs. But they are one-time funds to create the program, not to pay the salaries on an ongoing basis. And so that's what Representative Zahn was mentioning is House Bill 2015. The authority that the legislature provided to cities is ongoing revenue to fund broadly criminal justice services. And so that could include a co-responder program. I will just note that the communities that have co-responder programs, they've pursued grants in order to create the program, but are in a similar place where they're struggling to figure out how to make them financially sustainable in light of all the other demands on city budgets.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Councilmember Sherlock, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here, and I really appreciate the hard work that you've put in, Representative Zahn. I mean, you're so well prepared. I can't imagine how much time you spend on all this stuff, and you know everything like it's the back of your hands. I'm just very impressed, and I really appreciate you being our representative. My question is maybe more to our staff, actually, but I'm just curious if with this new transportation funding, have we looked into how much that will actually bring to Newcastle yet, or do we just not have an idea? Not yet. Okay.
Well, so just for context, the 6 cents additional increase in the gas tax, it is 2.5% of that increase would actually go to cities based on population. So we could probably also get staff to, or the OPR staff to run some calculations for what that might look like going to the city of Newcastle.
Thank you. And that just automatically happens. That's not like an opt-in program.
Correct. That is something that, I will say that one of the biggest challenges we had with the transportation budget was that we were not able to get enough support for some of the other revenue sources, so we ended up with the 6 cents 6 cents gas tax increase, and recognizing that that is one of the few things we can offer cities is that small 2.5%.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Councilmember Burke?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank you so much, our representative and our lobbyist, Shelley. And I had a great time, met you, and Councilmember Sherlock and I, we had a Newcastle Day at the Olympia with you. Thank you so much for such informative day and all the information. And also, we also meet with representative on that day. Also met with Senator Wellman. And I know, Janice, you have been working so hard because so many sessions ended like after 2 a.m. And but you're so prepared. You just shared so many updates with us. I just want to take this moment to thank you for representing us. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So also take care. Yes.
Well, I will say that being the tech engineer that I am, this is a list of all 421 bills that I tabbed so that I have a reference to go back to as I think about what happened in my 95 days in the legislature out of the 105. And what I look forward to is actually having that time ahead of the next session to spend some more time either with council members or your city manager or Shelley, better understanding based on what passed this year, what is the next tranche of bills that you're the most concerned about, and how do we move forward to get the kind of funding that you need. One of the other bills that didn't move forward this year was helping King County with some councilmanic authority because we were hearing that the public health clinics were also underfunded, and there's one at Eastgate that serves a number of people in our community. So helping understand what are some of those other things that you have in your list of priorities that maybe didn't make it on your one-pager, but would be that next tranche of needs for Newcastle. So happy to engage with you and better understand your needs.
Thank you so much.
Seeing no other questions, we really thank you for coming, both of you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the report and the support for our city. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up on our agenda, council committees. Councilmember Griffin, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Yes, the Finance Committee met on May the 27th. We approved 2 contractors, one for EKM Contractors, LLC and Waterline Trail Crossing, and the TO33 Additional Design and Geotech Consulting. It was a unanimous by the committee approved that. We had a snapshot set up by Director Chambers. She brought us a look at the city finances, and we're doing very well. She also took a look at the investments, and the investments were down just a little bit, but they're better than they were in years past. We then went through the review of the annual report that she does with the state. And I tell you what, she and the finance department are very, very well prepared, and they're doing the best job that I've seen in this city in the 5.5 years that I've been here. Thank you for the report.
Any other council committees? Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. I just wanted to plug that Economic and Community Development Committee will actually be tomorrow. We're going to be doing the first Wednesday of every month at 3 to 4, or however long the meeting takes, in the front room of City Hall. So that's right when you enter there. For this one, I'm going to recap sort of the meetings we've had with Port of Seattle, and then just give a current sort of update on projects, and then looking at sort of the kind of interaction I've been having with Monica Yu, who's the person who is the civic engagement coordinator for all the student government folks at Bellevue College. So, and just folks anyone in the public is welcome to that committee to attend as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Regional committees, any regional committees? Okay, seeing none there. There are no commission reports. We're off to city manager report. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, council. You all received an email from a young resident, Ashna Sika, I hope I'm not butchering that name, wanting to set up a youth council. They were not able to attend tonight due to other commitments. But I wanted to just put that in front of the council, maybe have a brief conversation as to what you'd like to do with that request. Our Community Activities Commission has indicated that they would love to get their youth positions refilled and make that more of a thing again for the Community Activities Commission. And so maybe that's an avenue, at least to begin with. But I wanted to put that in front of the council and get some brief thoughts or feedback on where we might go with that.
You want that now, then? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Would like to provide feedback. Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so I looked at this email. I actually had a friend, so I looked at the city of Auburn, they call it the junior council, and I and I talked to a young gentleman that served on that. He's 20 now, so he's no longer on the junior council because they said they said 18 and under. So I guess my big thing with this was I wanted to, I'd love to do something. I know in the past, there's been one position on different commissions. I'd be open to having it be a group itself that's engaged with the council. The question I think that comes up is, do you want it to be youth and young adult, or do you want to sort of have the 18-year-old cutoff? I think if you have the 18-year-old cutoff, there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of times folks might be on it for a year or two, and then a lot of them will end up going off to college, which is perfectly fine as long as the city advertises it. If you have the young adult category as well too, it could be a mixture. You could think about like doing half and half or something of that nature. I've seen different boards with that structure. So I just want to put that flag in front of folks to think about, but I think I'd love to do something of this nature, yeah.
Councilmember Burford?
Yeah, I think I also read her email. I'm quite impressed, just by her ideas and engagement and this initiative and enthusiasm. I think her idea aligns with our city's goals to engage youth and gather diverse perspectives. And I'd love to know her proposal in detail, and specific plan and timelines and role descriptions of specific member. And this will help me better understand her vision. But definitely, I think we can explore the potential next steps. And such as scheduling our meeting, so we can discuss further. So thank you.
Councilmember Sherlock?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to this idea. I don't know if it's, the first thing that popped in my head is it makes sense to create like an ad hoc council committee to kind of gather some more information and then present it to the council. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but there are a lot of, details that we need to discuss and figure out.
If I can, Mayor.
Please do. I was going to ask you how do we go about this, right? What do we do?
So just because I would be concerned about duplicating efforts with the Community Activities Commission, where they have a specific goal of re-engaging youth and having youth participate in the Community Activities Commission. Is that a place that we'd like to start, or would we like to consider a separate thing, a separate youth council, or just because I think if we're going to do something separate from what the Community Activities Commission is doing, we need to let them know. Just because that's been an effort that they want to engage in.
Councilmember Griffin, go ahead.
I think that we should ask the CAC committee if they want to re-enlist that one first before we start setting out to doing our own. See what their thoughts are on it, and then work out something in support of them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I think it would take a little bit of time to create a whole new youth council. So I would be in favor of supporting the, CAC on filling their youth positions and because I think that can happen fairly quickly because there's already a precedent for that. And then, but maybe at the same time, if we're interested in at least exploring another idea, I think it's worth exploring.
So I would suggest, like they said, the CAC perhaps to fill whatever position, but I'm also fine with the youth advisory account, whatever we decide to call it. But it seems to me like there's, we don't really have any details, like maybe there's some other councils that are doing it, maybe we get some, but it's kind of like we should explore, but is this you or the staff willing to do that exploring, city manager? Like what other cities are doing? I mean, I don't know the work bandwidth required there.
We can certainly do some research on that, and happy to do that. My main concern was just making sure we're not kind of taking over something that the CAC was already doing.
Sure.
At least if we're going to, we should make sure that we try to collaborate with them first. But it might be a good place for Ashna to start, as far as attending a CAC meeting and saying, hey, these were the thoughts that she was having, and maybe they can go from there, and we can start there, and then we can turn it into something bigger down the road. And so, but we can certainly do some research on what other cities are doing with youth councils.
So the city manager and I both wrote back to, and I can't say the name, Ashna, okay, Ashna. And we advised her to go to the CAC, and she was excited about that, right? She was going to go and attend to the next meeting, so she does have a path forward to look at. So if anybody on the council, on their own initiative or collaborating, would like to explore this idea, I'm fine. Bring back some information. I'm fine with that. Right? Why not? Okay. What else do you have, city manager?
That's all I got for you.
Is this might be a good point for you to discuss the signs. We've had emails about the sign issues, and there's some confusion about what used to be allowed, what's allowed now. Let's talk about that now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I would say that additional information is coming just because it takes some looking into and whatnot, just from a legal standpoint and updated case law. So we have a sign code that addresses temporary signs, which would include commercial signs that we've talked about, as well as political signs. And with updated case law, we can't enforce our code the way it sits. And so the research that we've asked of our city attorney and his office is to give us updated guidance on that. And so what we'll provide to the council and then the community is this is what our code says, and this is what we can enforce now. And so we'll get that out as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Okay, thank you, city manager. Next up is consent agenda. Are there any desired changes to tonight's consent agenda? Seeing none, show the consent agenda approved as written. There are no public hearings. There's no unfinished business. Now we're on to general business item 11.1. The first thing on there is approval of website redesign contract. And would that be city clerk or city manager? Who's going to lead this?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight before you is a resolution to approve a contract with Black Cat Studios, which is owned by Genpack, for a full website redesign. So our current website, as you know it and have used it, would be gone and a new design would come in. Why did this come up? As I believe I put in the agenda bill, this actually stemmed from agenda review meetings of hearing feedback that our website is not the best. It's very focused on big photos as soon as you land there. You have to click around and search things to try and find the most important information that our community members want to find. And so coming out of the agenda review meeting, we started looking at, there's lots of different options before us. Firstly, we started with our current provider, Civic Live. Civic Live has been bought and sold several times, and they are now owned by a company called PowerSchool. PowerSchool purchased them due to some texting application that they use in public school systems. And so they don't have a real need or a want to continue in the municipal website business. And just the redesign plan just the plan was gonna cost us $10,000. And so that's when I took it back to the agenda review committee and I was like, we're gonna need to look for a third-party vendor. So we started looking around with the goal of this redesign was to build a user-friendly landing page, the first thing our community members land on, having the ability to add at the very top of the web page, the ability to add alerts. So if there was ever to be a bomb cyclone 2.0, that we could put it up there that this is what's happening, click here for the major links. And so folks, when they land, it's not, you don't have to click around to find the most important things. We can have a hero box page that scrolls, that the top 3 or 4 things that touch our city, those are the first things you see. We can still have the alert at the top that can be a different color to really grab the eye. Much more user-friendly, easier to manipulate designs, text. As I was speaking to somebody today about our website, even the little Twitter, the bird changed to an X, and it took our community events coordinator, Amy George, about 9 months to get them to change the X from the bird to the X. Because we cannot change the photos, we cannot change the layout, we cannot change anything. It's a proprietary back end. And so we can update the community news page, and some little things, but really the general layout we can't touch. And so coming from a different city in my previous life, I'm used to a very customizable website that you can change the bird at any time and to an X if you wanted and not run into these challenges. So the biggest goal was a user-friendly landing page that it would prioritize high traffic links, meeting agendas, community news. I mean, we can name the top 5 things that most of our community members are looking for, make sure that they're easily accessible for them right off the landing page. No triple clicking to try and find the thing, and hopefully no search bar. Hopefully it's easier to use than that. The alert banner was a big one for us. And then making sure that we have access to our most current events, things that are the hot topics are easy to find. So those were in my agenda bill, I found there's some links of just some of our inspiration of what we're kind of looking for. We chose Black Cat Studios. The proposal was $30,000. It was in line with other vendors. As you saw in there, I did look at others up to, one of them was over $130,000. So, I mean, it really is all over the map. It's like a roof on your house. You go and get 3 bids and one is 10 grand and one can be 30 grand and it's the same roof. It's just a matter of overhead, I believe. But, so we landed on Genpack with Black Cat Studios. She's been super responsive. Her prices were in line. She understands WordPress sites, and that's the platform we're looking for. The reason for WordPress is just the flexibility, the plugin support, and it's not tied to a vendor or once Black Cat Designs is done building our website and it's live, we don't have to use her anymore. We could use volunteer labor to help. Our staff can update pages. I can help update pages. We're not tied to a vendor on a contract like we are currently with Civic Live. Civic Live, we have a contract. It's in there as an exhibit. We have to actually get out of that contract. And if we just said, well, we don't want to deal with this, we don't want to pay your $5,000, our website goes away because we're in a contract with them. And so getting out of that, having something that's ours, our website, then we can choose the host. If we choose host abc.com and then their prices go up 400%, we can say, I'm kind of done with ABC, .com's hosting services. Let's go to GoDaddy or name one you've seen on the internet, right? We can explore those options. And our website though is ours and not belonging to Civic Live, and it's not proprietary to them. And so I believe I put quite a bit of information in front of you in my agenda packet, and part of that is just so that you have it in front of you. But if I can answer any questions about the process, what that would look like. Jen is not here today. I also didn't ask her to be here. I feel like I know WordPress sites pretty well, so I hope I can answer your questions. So with that, how can I help?
Deputy Mayor?
So I know, thanks, Jane, we discussed about this. So I see that, again, 30,000, given our budget, it's quite a sizable amount. And I see that they are going to host for us initially, right? $360, $240 to begin with, and $360. And so we are talking like, we were giving $5,000 for hosting, and now we are paying $500, 1/10 of a price. I've worked in pricing strategy for 8 years at T-Mobile, and I think Councilmember Quigg will agree how the bait and catch works. So my only change, a small change that I'm proposing, which I'm hoping, all of you will agree, I would just want in the contract that they lock the hosting cost, $360 for 7 years, so that we break even. The whole idea, we said that we were paying $5,000 every year, and now we'll be paying $30,000 upfront and $500. So if we can just lock that hosting cost for the 7 years, at least we know that we're going to break even in the next 7 years.
Yeah, it's a great idea. The only issue I find with that is that Jen Pack isn't hosting our website. She's finding a third-party vendor to host our website. So she, I believe, is recommending, what's the name of the WP Engine startup plan? So we'll actually, she's gonna be the designer and the builder of the website. We're gonna have the hosting will be ours to pay separately. So she's gonna find one that she likes that's a good price for us, but if we don't like the price moving forward and we wanna try GoDaddy or Word WP startup, whatever it's called, or maybe there's other ones that people are up here, you might know, I don't know, I don't do websites for a job. We could Google it. That if we don't like it, we can always transfer to a new host, but Jen Pack, the Black Cat Studios, is not hosting for us, and she's gonna get us a vendor to use for the hosting. Does that make sense? She's not a hoster, she's a builder of websites.
So what is this 240 and 360 in the contract that says that 30,000 plus this for the first year, and then moving onward, it's 360 for the following year for hosting?
That's just her in the proposal giving the city a recommendation of a hosting service that she likes. It won't be a part of the contract. The contract's just $30,000 to build the website. Then the city owns the website. If we want to use her recommendation, great. If we don't, then we have to go find our own hosting sites. Again, GoDaddy or
Yeah,
whatever the other.
and Councilmember Craig, you can, I would like to know your thoughts too, since you do contracts for a living. For me to ensure to spend $30,000, I want to see that the hosting is locked for 7 years at not greater than $500 before I know that they are not hosting it, but if we can find a hosting which will lock us for $500, not exceed $500, and I'm sure the website builders have a lot of influence on that, because, if they're recommending, then, they always have, some kind of a relationship going on. So if we can kind of ensure that, then definitely, we should go for it. Because I'm just afraid that we might land up with another $2,000-3,000 in hosting. Because right now we feel that, let's do our research, whether it's GoDaddy or whatever, before we kind of, spend the $30,000. I'm okay spending the $30,000, but as long as I know that for 7 years I will break even. Again, this is not like a dire situation that we are in. It's not like our website is broken and we need to fix it right away. And I think as a board, I want to cross all my T's and dot all my I's, because, again, we are not like we still haven't done the budget for next year, so we don't know where we are at. And it's just that, we have a contract locked in, but if we can kind of ensure hosting, I'm all for it. As long as I know 7 years, yes, we will break even. Because, like going from 5,000 to 500, I have my doubts there. Like we're going from 5,000 hosting to 500, that's 1/10 of a price. So I just want to be.
One of the main differences is that Civic Live is hosting it, so they built our website, and I believe I had it in so the city paid an annual hosting fee initially with Civic Live of $4,000 back in, I believe, 2015. We agreed to that in 2015. So we agreed at a very accelerated rate back then, and it's went up from $4,000 in 2015. In 10 years, it's went up $1,100. So I understand that it has escalated. It's escalated, and we've watched it over the last 10 years escalate. The hard part is I cannot commit that I can promise that, and Jen Pack isn't promising that either. She's the designer of the website. We could Google and get on the internet right now and Google what a website hosting average is. Maybe you can lock yourself into a 10-year plan. Sometimes you can buy 5, get 5 years, something like this. She was just recommending a vendor. I don't know what other options are. I'm sure you could get on GoDaddy or what have you and find a hosting site for us. The other thing that I believe her proposal said is she's recommending based on the data that her and I logged into our website. She looked at our hits and our page views, I suppose. And in there is how she came up with the plan that she's recommending, which is a certain amount of, and I could find it, it was 25 visits per month, 20 gigabytes local storage, 75 gigabytes bandwidth. So that's why that, if we ended up having, my guess is the hosting site, if we had quadruple the amount of visits in a month, I'm sure that our not our contract, it's usually they're not contracts like what you guys approve, it's more of like how we pay for Canva or some of these like ongoing things, like Jotform and things that we use here at the city, that if we exceed what we are allotted, we might end up having to pay anyway. So the hard part is although they're tied together, because we have a hosting and we have a website redesign, they're actually two independent things. And so lumping them together as it must look this way to approve it today, I can't guarantee you that, and I don't want to promise you something I can't guarantee. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I just don't want to rush on it, let's do some more research on that before we commit to a $30,000. I mean, that's what my thing is, because when we started discussing, I remember myself and the mayor, and you calculated that, 7 years we'll break even, and I just want surety that, yes, 7 years. And as you said, there are hosting sites out there which will, you can buy a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan. If we can do that, that's when, we should move forward with this.
I'd like to respond to Deputy Mayor Lacotia's comment. 3 people I'm thinking of. First of all, Deputy Mayor Lacotia, I agree with everything she just said. If we're not in a rush, everything she's asking for is super reasonable. I'm sure it's very doable. And in my experience with websites and watching my wife build websites for the PTA, I think that's completely reasonable. Speaking of the PTA, I got recruited to the RISD PTA by Jen Pack and other folks at RISD. I remember going to Jen's house and meeting her, and she's incredible. We had to do fundraisers, and she's the one that did the QR codes for me. I would text her, need something fixed. She did it immediately, so I trust her to be very, 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 I'm not surprised that Jane has had a great experience with her because she's super responsive. So I think what Deputy Mayor Lacotia is asking for is a great idea. If we're not in a rush, I think we can get it done, and in the next meeting, approve the contracts. That's my 2 cents.
Additional comments, Councilman Sherlock?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know that a lot of energy has been put into this by staff, and it sounds like everyone likes Black Cat Studios redesigning at the rate of $30,000, right? I mean, that's what I'm hearing, is that part is, we're all sounding good on that. And that is what this resolution is about. I heard the city attorney say that that's the web hosting, in his opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, looking at this proposal, that's not part of the contract. So I would personally be in favor of moving forward with the redesign, approving the $30,000 to get it redesigned. I think absolutely, let's look into hosting options and make sure that Ms. Pack's proposal or recommendation is a good one, and it's not going to skyrocket like you guys are saying. But I'm in favor of moving forward with the redesign. So I would like to. Do we have to make a motion on this?
Yeah.
We got a couple more questions first. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to redesigning, but then I think the hosting goes hand in hand with this, because we don't want to end up with another $5,000 per year for hosting. I mean, like, we are talking from 5,000 to 500, and 500 is just an estimate right now. We don't even know exactly what it's going to be. All I'm saying is, before we go into redesign, let's find out how much the hosting is going to cost, because it goes hand in hand. I mean, we can design a website and then the current host, we can continue to pay 5,000 in hosting if we cannot find another good host. So, city clerk, attorney, that's possible, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much it would cost to host for the next 5 years. I mean, I see what, Ms. Pack put in her proposal, $360 a year, but I can't promise that's gonna be next year.
Yeah, so all I'm
Google
saying
it,
is,
yeah.
any website, you can design a website and it would be just sitting there because we cannot find a good hosting amount, So we can build a website today, spend $30,000, and it'll be sitting there because we found a hosting which is like $5,000. Are we willing to pay $5,000 for hosting? So that's my only thing, that I think it goes hand in hand. And again, I just want to cross all T's, dot all I's. That's what we are doing here.
Yeah, I understand. Just a quick Google search says that it's up to from $2 a month to $500 a month is the average cost of hosting. The Civic Live cost was extreme because we, the city, decided to get into a contract with a proprietary vendor who held us hostage for 10 years and we can't get out of it. That's what it was. We got into a contract with them. We agreed to their cost. It's not hidden. They told us what it was going to cost and we agreed to it. They escalated it probably actually at $1,100 over after 10 years is not actually an extreme rate of increase. It steadily increased as approved by the finance committee and as approved by this. It wasn't hidden. We just look at it now and go, holy cow, this is like a cost that just kind of creeped up over the time. And then when you compare it to 500 versus 5,000, you go, wow, that seems kind of crazy. But they could have charged us whatever they wanted because we were in a contract with them. This is a different structure. It's not the same. It's apples and oranges. There are two websites, so that's the same. But the layout of it and the contract of it is completely different. Once Genpack is done, we don't ever have to talk to her again if we don't want to. And then we're just dealing with the hosting charges. And so what would be helpful is that if not knowing the hosting charges, if Genpack listed what she believes the first year's $240, second year, after the initial year was $360 a year, that even if it was $500 a year, $500 a year divided by 12 months, this isn't like we pay more for Canva, I believe, or we pay more for Constant Contact, which everyone gets the newsletters from. So I understand every dollar counts, but we're talking about $500 out of, I don't know what our yearly budget is, a year. That's not even something that would go to you for approval because the threshold is so little. It's a city manager approval, or actually it's even falls under my approval authority as a director because it's that small of an amount. I think our JotForm account is $400 and something a year. And so if that's a major concern, it would have been helpful to have that possibly before tonight because I could have easily spent 10 minutes on Google before now and got you a list of 10 companies and what their average charges so that we could have compared it. But $500 a year, it's not a month, a year.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, city clerk, it's just that can we, before we approve this, can we kind of ensure that, because, the size of the website, it says 24,000 visits per year, because all your hosting depends on that, on how much. So if we can just confirm that and say that, okay, you know what, we will be going with GoDaddy, we spoke with them, this is the size of the website, these are the number of visits, and this is how much it's going to cost. So that the whole reason we decided to redesign it because we were paying $5,000. And that's why we are willing to spend $30,000. I'm okay spending $30,000 as long as I know I'm going to break even in 7 years. That's all I'm ensuring, because, and why the rush? I don't get it. Can we not wait for a few months or maybe another meeting and kind of just lock down the hosting, have a solid company that, yes, this is the hosting that we're going to do, and now we can go ahead with the contract.
Yeah,
That's my only thing.
I would say that this hasn't been a rush. We talked about this at agenda review months and months and months ago. I could find the emails. This hasn't been a rush deal. That's where I have to be honest, I'm slightly taken aback that we're held up on $500 a year maximum that we're capping at out of a $30,000 proposal when we paid, you can look at the past numbers and what we've paid every year. And so if that's the hiccup, that's the holding point, this could have been addressed. It could have been addressed over the weekend. It could have been addressed at any point in time. And I could have came here tonight so that we don't have to bring this back for a second or third round of review. We could have handled this tonight and gotten it done I don't usually want to bring things back multiple times for things when I could have done it ahead of time. I would have been happy to do that research earlier today as I was sitting at my desk eating Jersey Mike's. So if there are concerns, I would like to know them all right now so that when I do come back, I would be happy to bring back all the answers to every single question, so I don't have to bring it back 3 times, if that makes sense.
Councilmember Sharp.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'll explain, I'll contribute to the conversation in a second, but for the sake of moving forward, I'll make a motion and then explain myself. So I would move to approve resolution number 2025-1043, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Genpact of Black Cat Studios for comprehensive website redesign.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2025-1043, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Genpact of Black Cat Studios for a website redesign. Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau. Speak.
Thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate the discussion from folks, and I think I don't want to have too much back and forth with council and staff. I think looking at this, I think there is a cost to inaction. I think the cost to inaction is a very sort of arcane system that our staff just described to us. They don't enjoy using. Feedback I've personally gotten from a lot of residents that they find our website hard to navigate. And then also the cost of the really quickly escalating yearly what we pay for website hosting. I think I have, and then also something this does for us is this gives us a better website, I think, for folks to navigate. It gives us ownership of that as well too. So right now we don't have the agency to look at different website hosting options like we're talking about right now and able to do that research. And I think this is separate from the website hosting, and I trust our staff to look at the different entities and find one that is appropriately priced. But right now we don't even have that option. So I think tethering the redesign of the website to a guaranteed lower cost for a guaranteed certain cost for the hosting. I think those are 2 separate entities, so I don't think it's a possible request. And I trust our city staff to do that. I think this is something that a lot of people like to see. I think, at least in the community, I think it would make the staff have communicated to me that they don't like using the service, so I want to be responsive to that and responsive to the community. And having ownership of our website is a great thing, I think. It gives us more autonomy what we can do as a city. And I think it's going to decrease our yearly cost by quite a bit. So I think it's a lot of good stuff here. That's why I would make this motion and try to move forward with it now as opposed to delaying.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Nothing to add.
Let me ask a question, City Clerk. So the $5,000 a year we pay for Civic Live, is that set, or is that prorated and we get cut off and we get refund or whatever as soon as we're done with them? What is that?
I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to read the contract. It was in the packet. I just didn't read it for that content. My knee-jerk reaction is that once you pay it, good luck getting it back. That is just I know that might sound jaded. I just am used to not getting $1 back. Will I'll fight them to try and get the money back for any prorated amount? If anyone knows me very well, I'm not afraid to send those emails. And try my best for services unused and involve our friend here, Curtis, to back me up if I have to. But I just naturally think once the funds have been paid, because it comes in a yearly invoice, getting that back at any point is always a difficult thing. Also, there is notice to council we have to abide by as well to make sure that we can cancel. You can't just, sometimes they have like clauses that say, hey, you didn't cancel by X date, you're extended no matter what, even if you don't like it, that type of a business. But right now we're fine because it's going to take Jen about 6 months to redo our website. So we're looking at my goal would be a 2026 launch, like a January 1st, 2026 launch. And not try and rush this to try and get it done faster. I'd like to have council input and staff input on layouts and all that stuff as it rolls forward and not rush it and then make some mistakes. And so my goal would be to have a January 26th launch. So we have plenty of time on the council side to make sure we meet those deadlines.
Okay, well, I have mixed feelings about this because obviously we need to do it. I'm totally convinced we need a new website. It's terrible. I hate it. Can't find anything. But I also appreciate what the deputy mayor is saying, and I understand you, the city clerk, you could have, had a couple more data points for us, but and we have a motion which we will vote on, but I would suggest that we just revisit this in 2 weeks. We'll take the vote, but first we'll take the vote and then we'll discuss it. Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 2025-1043, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Jen Pack of Black Hat Studios for a comprehensive website redesign. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, so it fails 3-4. However, we can bring this back next meeting with additional, information about website hosting, and it really isn't going to delay that significant amount of time.
Is
Now-
there any other information that we can provide? Because we put this in front of the council over a month ago,
Right.
asking for feedback on it.
Understand. So, right. Any other comments? So whatever comes back next week, we're going to vote on. Any additional
I
information?
think they already provided the information a month ahead, so we should have asked more questions if we have. So I feel strongly that we should allow them to do this. It's for our city. You agree, Mayor? So
agree, yeah.
our website is really is not user friendly. And so many people, they ask me, they say they can't find the essential information. So they are, Jen already said they're going to provide some additional information, but the 90%, I'm the principal, the goal is to get, work with Black Cat. I think,
We all agree with that. So
Yeah, we all agree.
Next meeting, we'll have one additional piece of information and we'll proceed. So that's what we're going to do. So this motion failed. We're going to move on to our next general business item. City Clerk, do you have everything you need from us? Any addition? Just that one question. Thank you. Next item on our business tonight is item 11.2, approval of resolution 2025-1044, recognizing Lunar New Year annually in January. Deputy Mayor, you want to start us out? You brought this up.
Yeah, just 1 second. Just trying to open that. I think not much of a discussion there because we've already talked about it a couple of times, and last year also we tried to do this. So I would just like to make a little amendment to this motion. I have it written here. So can I just, just go ahead. So I move to approval of resolution 2025-1044, a resolution to recognize the celebration of Lunar New Year each year during the month of January in the city of Newcastle, and to require an annual proclamation by the City Council acknowledging and honoring this cultural observance.
I second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2025-1044 to recognize the celebration of Lunar New Year each year during the month of January in the city of Newcastle, and to require an annual proclamation by the City Council acknowledging and honoring this observance. You want anything to add, Deputy Mayor? Councilmember Burford, anything to add?
I agree. We have already talked about this. I think the information is very clear, and to honor our city's diversity and the cultural heritage. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any other comments on this before we vote? My position on proclamations is crystal clear. It's not going to change, so I would not be in favor. And so we're going to have a vote on approval of resolution 2025-1044 to recognize the celebration of Lunar New Year each year during the month of January in the city of Newcastle, and to require an annual proclamation by the City Council acknowledging and honoring this cultural observance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, motion passes 4-3. Next up on our general business is item 11.3, approval of resolution 2025-1045, recognizing Hindu Heritage Month in October. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'll just move it again. I move the approval of resolution 2025-1045, 10:45, a resolution to recognize the celebration of Hindu Heritage Month each year during the month of October in the city of Newcastle, and to require an annual proclamation by the city council acknowledging and honoring this cultural observance.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2025-1045, a resolution to recognize the celebration of Hindu Heritage Month each year in the month of October in the city of Newcastle, and to require an annual proclamation by the city council acknowledging and honoring this cultural observance. Anything to add? Councilman Burford, anything to add?
No, the same reason I support. Thank you.
Okay. We'll just take a vote, okay? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Okay. Measure passes 4-3. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11.4, discussion of the 2026 to 2031 six-year transportation improvement program update. Go ahead, Director Bronze.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Why is this not starting? Sorry, for some reason, oh. Good. Excuse me just a moment. Going to a different screen or something. Well, I'll just read it off of this. So introduction, we're going to do a little quick background. We'll go over the changes from last year's TIP, go over the budget impacts, and then we'll have time for questions and discussion. So what is a TIP? It's basically a planning document. It's required by state law to be updated annually. It's a requirement typically in all cases that a project be on your 6-year TIP to be eligible for grant funding. Just a little background of when we previously discussed this, the two dates in 2024, the review of the draft and then the adoption in June. And then typically the adopted TIP will funnel right into the capital budget when we start with the budget discussions in the fall. So let's get to the meat of the thing. This is the draft 6-year TIP that's in your agenda packet. This one's been augmented by colors. The orange shading shows a change in the funding. A blue shading shows a change in the schedule. And we'll come back to this. I just wanted to highlight that. One also key change to note is the change in the REIT funding down here. The previous 6-year TIP, the funding was about $2.5 million annually, so that's a significant drop. So how things have changed between the last year's TIP and this year's. About a 30% drop in the 6-year expenditures from about 22.9 to 16.1 million over 6 years. And they're balanced. The number of projects and the expenditures is balanced to keep it within revenue. So they're both essentially even at $400,000, but that's over a 6-year term. And just a reminder that there's no proposed debt in any of the scenarios. If the revenue were to decline, then projects will be pushed back to compensate. So one little history, so that the big drop in this year's TIP kind of aligns with where we were 3 years ago. So if you just look at the 2023 TIP that we discussed in 2022, we're back about like that, commensurate for the REIT revenue we had back then. And as through this pie chart up here, just to kind of look at where the majority of the funding comes from, 60% of it is from REIT. That's based on the 6-year total. Then the next is grants at 20%, impact fees at 14%, and the contribution for SWIM for any of the drainage elements on the projects comes from the SWIM fund, and that's about 6%. So notable changes from last year. All projects were inflated from last year, and the annual inflations of just under 4% for capital projects. T11, the annual payment management program, the expenditures were updated, particularly for the years 26, 27, and 28, to reflect the actual project scope. And I can, if Councilmember Quigg had a specific question, I can kind of go over what those anticipated expenditures are. I pulled up some. So the plans for 2026, we have a federal grant, and this is to do the streets that are highlighted in green. So that is Lake Washington Boulevard in its entirety, different segments of Newcastle Way, the segment of Coal Creek Parkway from Newcastle Way to the Bellevue city limit, and then 2 segments of 116th Avenue south of Southeast 76th Street. Then the plan for 2027 is to overlay the streets in the Hazelwood, Donegal, Newport Woods neighborhoods right here. So that's the plan for 2027. The concrete, whenever you do an overlay, you're required to bring up any substandard curb ramps to current standard. And so we're actually doing that work this year, because that's a substantial effort. A lot of times there's a benefit to breaking that out separate so that the asphalt company can just get in there and pave and doesn't have to deal with a concrete subcontractor. So this work will be constructed in 2025. The contract's out for bid right now. And so then when we come in and pave in 2027, there's no concrete work to be done. And so that's 2027. And then 2028, we have another federal grant to pave Coal Creek Parkway from Newcastle Way all the way down, all 4 lanes, down to Southeast 91st. So those are the reasons that those two 2026 and 2028 grants are baked into those years. So they're be very difficult, if not impossible, to move those. And they each require a 50% match. So that's why those dollar amounts increase to represent those planned costs for those grants. And then in the years 2029 and forward, so I'll come back to let's go back to here. For 2029 and forward, these are just our annual, back to our annual, a larger project in even numbered years and smaller, either crack sealing, pavement repairs, surface treatments, kind of minor, less intense projects in the off years. So beginning in 2029, we start that cycle again. In 2026, we will apply for, the federal grants are done on the even years, so every 2 years. So in 2026, that grant cycle will reopen and we will apply, and hopefully, cross our fingers that we'll be fortunate again. There's a separate payment set aside that will be fortunate and potentially have another $1 million grant, in which case, and this would bump up to over $2 million for that program. Any questions on that? Okay. So then,
You're not done, right? You want to wait?
no,
You want
I mean, I can take a question on T11 if there's a question, but otherwise.
Question on T11? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. You answered my question. Thank you, Director Bronze. Because my question was about what changed in the scope that changed the price by like nearly $2 million. What is a substandard curb ramp? And why do we have to change?
One that doesn't meet standards.
Yeah. What I learned the word councilmaniac today also. I'm learning all sorts of different terms. So why is it substandard, and what has to change to make it standard?
So those neighborhoods were built in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and when the ADA passed, there was a standard for curb ramps, and it pretty much hasn't really changed in the last 25 years, but those were built before that. So if you just were to go look at either the ramp does not exist, or the ramp does not match what is like right out here at 129th and Coal Creek Parkway, or excuse me, Newcastle Way. Well, there's very specific grades. It has to be the gutter pan across the front has to be 2% or less. The landing has to be no steeper than 2%. The side slopes can't be more than 8.33%. There's a whole bunch of specifics.
And what percentage of the increased scope is related to these substandard curb ramps? Because I know one of the reasons the cost went up is because some of these particular sites were built so long ago they don't comply with ADA requirements. What percentage-ish? Is it half that's for these ramps?
I couldn't come up with a number right now.
That's fine. But thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome. And then just 2 more related changes. Due to the decrease in funding, we took these 2 projects, the T34, which is the non-motorized improvements on Lake Washington Boulevard, which was added in last year's TIP. It was previously listed as unfunded. It came up to be funded, and now it's back going down to unfunded just because of the volatility in the revenue. And then we also pushed the T58 Newcastle Way widening based on previous council action this year. We pushed that down to the unfunded, rather than removing it so that it's still eligible should a grant come up. So now is a good time if we want to just entertain discussion, questions, input, feedback on the proposed TIP.
Okay, who's got questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Bronze, for your work on this. So I'm going to continue to advocate. I think I've done it for the entire time I've been on council, actually. Project T-044, Coal Creek Parkway Southeast signalized improvements. What that's talking about for folks is the sort of, we colloquially call it the QFC parking lot. When you're making a turn out of that area, we know it can be dangerous to make a left turn there. So it was about looking about putting a light sort of as you're leaving Tapatio and turning left. And I think it serves dual purpose with just a safety element of making that turn. And there's also, I do think there's an economic development element. Something I learned attending Association of Washington Cities is that one of the biggest indicators of people stopping and spending money in your city is traffic lights, actually. So makes folks more likely to turn into these different spots where people spend money. So I had moved it in the past forward to be considered for 2026, and then council, and it sat that way for about quite a while, I think almost a full year, and then council moved it back. I didn't really get a great explanation why. I guess my question for you, Director Bronze, is would it be possible to move it forward at all from 2030? Because I think it's something the community would really like to see. That's my own opinion. And then, if so, like what would that look like? Can you just speak to that?
Sure.
Definitely could be moved forward. I would look at the this bottom number, the totals, and that just kind of looks at the workload. Even though some of the projects, like the asphalt projects, that you're spending a lot more money and it's not as intensive as, let's say, a sidewalk project potential. But like for instance, 2027 has a lower forecast as well as 2029. So I'd advocate for either 2029 or 2027 based on just the kind of the planned workflow. And we have to look at, I guess, cash flow. So we look at the end of 2027, we're 1.2 million, forecast to be 1.2 million ahead. So moving that forward shouldn't really change our cash flow expenditure for that year.
Gotcha. Thank you. That is very helpful. So yeah, I personally, I'd like to move it up to 2027. I think it'd be a great addition to our city, and I think it's something many people have been requesting for a really long time. So.
We'll start with that. We'll go one by one. So Councilmember Charbonneau is asked to move forward T-044. We'll just show a show of hands. Who would like to move it forward? Raise your hand. Okay, who would like to leave it where it is? Okay, we'll keep it where it is. Please, go ahead.
Can I ask for you all to tell us why you don't want to move it forward? Because I would just love to understand.
Sure.
I heard some great reasons to move it forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I appreciate Councilmember Charbonneau. I'll also go first. Councilmember Charbonneau's opinion, but I don't think there's a community demand for it. And I don't think that, I see this list and I don't want to lose track of the really important things. Like I am super thrilled that Southeast 76th Street is going to be done next year with the non-motorized improvements. That is public safety, as putting it as the #1 priority. So I'm super happy about that. I don't want to lose track of those things that are truly public safety issues, and I don't see the need. And I know Councilmember Griffin will probably chime in, but there was a survey and people, nobody said, hey, let's do this. So that's my opinion on that. Any other comments on that?
I love the idea of improving safety coming out of the Tapatio QFC parking lot, as he colloquially called it. I will say that one of the things I've been mentioning since I first showed up was when I get done shopping with QFC, I load my bags in my car. I get in my car and I drive in between Bank of America out of the QFC parking lot. Bank of America is to my left. That's a tough spot to come out of, not necessarily because of any lack of a traffic light, as much as the fact that the bush is there. You can't see the cars whipping around, past Dave's Fruit Produce Stand coming down the street. So I agree we need to always, work to improve safety. And I don't know if this is something for Director Bronze or Director Fitzgibbons, but to the extent we can work with our stakeholders, so to speak, in the community and say, hey, can you trim this back a bit so folks can see better? That might help. I also agree with what Mayor Clark said. I haven't seen the big push for this expenditure from what feedback I've gotten or any of the survey results or comments from anybody about what they're really focused on. But I do think something we could do for free to improve safety coming out of that parking lot is just to work with whomever owns those bushes and say, hey, maybe put in some lower ground cover or something.
I think if people really pay attention and they're trying to make a left turn at high peak traffic areas, don't do it. There are other ways to get out of it because, you know, with a couple of rights, you can wind up back over on Newcastle Way and get where you're going and be very, very safe. But, and coming the other direction, you can make those turns that you need to make to cross over to the other side, on the east side, and not have a problem. You know, you've got lights working in your favor. I don't know why people don't understand that. I never have a problem of going over to either one of those stores and getting back to the other side with and be at risk. It's an impossibility.
Yeah. Go ahead. Did you have? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to look at data. I haven't seen any data which shows that a lot of people want this. So if I can, that's my only thing.
Do you have additional comments? Go ahead.
Okay, so I heard you say, Mayor, that you wanted to focus on this other stuff. We just heard from Director Bronze that we can move this forward and it's not going to take anything else away. So it still feels like a very feasible thing to do. As far as feedback, well, secondly, Councilmember Quigg, I heard you say you're in favor of it and then you voted against it. So I still don't really understand why you're against this or to vote against it. And third, I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of thought.
All briefly, what I was in favor of was improving safety for me when I've got especially my kids in the back seat, exiting the QFC/Bank of America parking lot. And I'm saying that there's, I think, a free way of improving safety. I don't see the big push, as the Mayor mentioned, for us to spend millions of dollars on T44, I think is what it's called.
So I remembered what I was going to say. As far as community feedback, this was before any of us were on the council, but there was a huge, extensive outreach with our community for a long time. I don't know exactly how long. I'm going to guess. I'm sure former Councilmember Simpson could help me out, but I think it was a couple of years project with the Downtown Strategic Plan. And that is when we got feedback for this. That's where this came from. There were several walking tours with our community. People walked around the city and they'd as a group, as people who live here and use this community in their daily lives, this was one of the major projects, ideas that came out of that. So yes, we haven't heard about it recently. That doesn't mean that we haven't heard about it. And doesn't mean that it's not wanted in our community. And I know that the Downtown Strategic Plan hasn't been talked about a lot right now because we've been focusing on our comprehensive plan. I do know that Director Fitzgibbons and City Manager Pingle have plans to talk more about that with the council in the near future. And I know we're not making huge decisions tonight, we're just discussing, but I just want you all to know that there has been community feedback and an ask for this project. And I hope that you all can reconsider moving this up a little bit so that our community can finally see this project that they said that they wanted.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. Director Bronze, has there ever been a traffic study done at that specific location?
Yes, and I'll come back, Councilmember Sherlock's point, this was either the top or the second highest priority project coming out of the public realm improvements from the downtown study. That was maybe 2018, about when that happened. So there was the city did a preliminary alternatives analysis and a traffic signal warrant analysis is what the technical term is in 2019, 2020, and that was presented to council before the pandemic in 2020.
Thank you. So yeah, I continue to remain personally perplexed about this. I think this would not inhibit us from doing any other projects to move forward. This is transportation improvement money that's going to be spent specifically on transportation improvement plans. And I'll just be honest, I find the other reasons uncompelling. And I think it was just stated it's a high priority, and I think, a lot of lived experience of folks. So I will, whether staff prepares it or not, I will make this motion a couple weeks from now. I'll continue to push for this as long as I'm here. So I hope folks will reconsider. But I'm fine. I know we've talked about it for a while, so I'm happy to move on in conversation.
Okay, looking at other projects on the list, are there any questions or changes or any items for the director for this plan? I would just make one ask, Director Bruns. So with the pushback of the widening of Newcastle Way, the 123rd Southeast intersection improvements versus the Newcastle Way Golf Club Road improvements, it seems to me that the Golf Club Road Newcastle Way should be a higher priority than the 123rd Newcastle Way. We hear a lot of complaints about that steep turn and all at the top of that hill there, and so I personally would like to see those two projects swapped in the years. So in other words, T55 move back and T54
Right.
move
Just swap
forward.
them.
Any objection to that on the council?
I'll just comment that I drive down that street 6 times a day, and I agree that 123rd is fine. The other one, the problem is that Newcastle Golf Course Way.
Any objection or dissension of swapping those two? Okay, yeah, please do that, Director Bruns.
Sure thing.
Okay, otherwise, thank you for putting this together. Like I mentioned already, the non-motorized improvements, I think, are huge. I just cringe when I drive up that hill and I see kids walking practically in the gutter, and it's just, man, that's gonna be great to have that done. So,
Sure.
yeah, good job.
Thank you. Just one note, a heads up, the T33, which isn't on this discussion because it's scheduled to be completed in 2025, this current year, it's scheduled to go out for bid this week, and the current estimate is about $1 million over budget due to the taller walls and just inflation. Part of that is offset by, we have a $500,000 grant from the Transportation Improvement Board. But we're planning, since the next meeting, the July meeting is recessed, we were planning on bringing a consent item, or either whatever agenda item, I'll take your feedback, but basically an advance award. We did this last year for the overlay project, and we would make an educated guess on what dollar amount from the engineer's estimate. I just want to give you a heads up about that for T33 for next week. Geez, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then in the financials on the TIP, the beginning fund balance for 2026 does take into account that additional anticipated construction costs for that project, as well as the grant funds.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so the next steps for the TIP, the next meeting, the June 17th, we would finalize hopefully, if everything looks good and meets your approval, conduct a brief public hearing, and then adopt the final TIP. At the same time, we'll talk about the 6-year CIP. There's not a requirement to have an adopted version, but we typically do this during the summer, talk about the 6-year plan for parks as well as stormwater capital. And then one of the things that Director Fitzgibbons brought up is that we should be updating our capital facilities plan and appendix on a more frequent basis to keep it in line with these other 3 documents. So we've got that queued up to bring to you later in the summer.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is a new agenda item that we discussed at the beginning, item 11.5, discussion of creating a city flag. So, Councilmember Burford, why don't you go ahead and, if you got a few words to add there.
I think, we already talked about this at the beginning. It's very clear. Last year I shared my thought, and also I really appreciate our former council member Simpson pointed out the importance, and our city did have a flag. So I think I said that we as our city, This is our identity. I really, I think identity matters to each and every one of us in the city of Newcastle. And so I move this motion. I hope I will get all your support. Thank you, Mayor, and all the council members.
Okay, so go ahead and make a formal motion then. What was your motion?
I move to get a flag for our city. We can use our city's logo, maroon color and white, possibly some gold trimming if possible, or just maroon and white.
Second.
Okay. Any additional discussion, Councilmember Burford or Sherlock?
I wanted to ask if staff had gotten any price for this?
Yes.
We did. So I would love to know more about the flag we had previously because no current staff or council members have been aware of that. And if we've previously established a flag and it's just a matter of going and buying one, we can do that. That we had cost estimates up to getting a nice flag that were $200. And so if we have an established flag, we don't need to reestablish a flag. We just need to go get it.
Okay. Any other comments? Well, believe it or not, Carol Simpson changed my mind on this. So thank you for coming, Carol. So I was thinking that's like $200 or less, and we already had a flag, so that changes my opinion. So I would be in favor of this. So
Thank you, Mayor.
any other comments? Okay, the motion is to, and I'm going to paraphrase, excuse me, move to create a city flag. How should I say this? Move to create or rejuvenate our city flag for the city of Newcastle. Okay. Will that be sufficient, City Manager? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 7-0. Yeah, hopefully we can find the old one so we can make it easy for you. All right, that concludes our general business. We're on to additional public comment. So, City Clerk will hand me the sheet for additional public comment. If you'd like to comment, please come to the podium. State your name and neighborhood. You have 3 minutes to discuss whatever you'd like to discuss. When the buzzer goes off, we just ask you to wrap it up, please. Okay, first up is Claudia Hershey. No comments from Claudia, okay? Thank you, Claudia. Allison Sweeney, come on up.
Push the button. Allison Sweeney, I'm in the Olympic Ridge neighborhood, but tonight I have on my president of the Chamber of Commerce hat. I just wanted to thank everybody who was able to join us for the Diamond Awards. We had a lot of council members join us, and that was really great. City manager joined us. Thank you so much. Why I'm here tonight, though, is to share with those of you who can attend and our audience. We had a fun little activity, and I take zero credit for it. I have a wonderful group who put on the Diamond Awards this year. I was not a part of it, but they came up with this really fun activity. And it was called Newcastle Gems. And about halfway through the evening, we took a little break, and there were these stickers, these diamond stickers on the table and markers. And we asked our attendees to write on these stickers things that they love about Newcastle. And bonus points if it had nothing to do with anybody who was actually already in the room. So it was so fun to see what was brought up. So trails for walking dogs, residents, family friendly clean, Frosty Barrel, Newcastle Golf Course, natural spaces, parks and trails. Parks and trails gets mentioned a lot, I think the most. The volunteers, the city staff, the history. I loved this one because I forget. Mini golf at the golf course. Concerts in the park, neighbors, B&E meets, community, the trails. I love the trails. The Arts Council, Lake Bourne Boardwalk. Newcastle volunteers and businesses, Newcastle Golf Course again, togetherness, public service, Terrace Trail, PTSAs, True Leadership, Yeas Walk, the Coleman, Clean, Scenic Drive, Mentors, Concerts in the Park. So you can just see that there's so many things to celebrate with our city. And I just wanted to come and share this with the council and share this with our community because it was really great. And we're hoping to have it on display somewhere in the building so that when people come to the city, they can see some of our other Newcastle City gems. So just wanted to share with you guys tonight. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Allison. Andy Jacobs.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Thank the staff again for, seems like you put in a lot of work for the comments that are and presentations that you do at the council meetings that I've been to. So thank you just personally for doing what you do. The second thing I wanted to mention, we have the Pride event on Sunday from 3 to 6 at Lake Bourne Park. I would encourage everybody that's able to come and celebrate Pride Month. I think it's from 3 to 6, right? So we'll have games and cookies and all kinds of things for the kids and so on. So please come out and join us on Sunday.
Thank you, Andy. Carol Simpson.
Carol Simpson from, I'm going to speak as president of the Friends of the Newcastle Library. I didn't really intend to speak twice tonight, but there's some history falling through the cracks, and I worry when you redo the website, more stuff will fall through the cracks. I put down NYCE, Newcastle Youth Community Engagement. This was a youth group that was involved, that was active in the city of Newcastle. It was sponsored by the Friends of the Newcastle Library, the YMCA, and the city, but it paused during COVID, and it fell through the cracks with change of council, change of staff, and it was forgotten. So I encourage the staff to go back and look this up and see how this worked before. The Friends of Newcastle Library paid for food, so that when the group met at the library or at the YMCA, they had food, or when they met at the city. They participated in events in the city, participated with the CAC, and as I understand it, our high school youth, and I'll look to one of the parents of our high school youth, look for volunteer activities they can be involved in. They need volunteer credits for what they do in high school for graduation. So having this as a youth engagement is important to our city. It's good for our kids to be participating instead of sitting at home doing this all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Beth McDaniel.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Beth McDaniel. I'm in the Drayton Park neighborhood. I just wanted to say thank you for being spontaneous and voting 7-0 to have the Newcastle flag. I've testified before that I would love to see 3 flagpoles for the city. Of course, Old Glory would be the prominent flag, and then 2 shorter equal flagpoles, one for the state, one for the city, and then the city could be interspersed with commemorative flags. I know we have our city seal, but I think it'd be great to have our city flag, next to the state flag. I just wanted to really encourage the city council to continue to work collaboratively with city staff and make sure to, I know you all have lives outside of the city, but where possible to address questions regarding proposals before the meeting. It's, just from a business perspective, I know a number of us are in business to see things debated, on smaller points that are not part of resolutions. When something is well researched and presented, and I'm referring specifically to the website, which failed tonight. And that's disappointing because that's something that would benefit all citizens. And it seems like we are, and I appreciate concerns about resources, but, the web hosting was not part of the presentation. I'm also concerned, from a revenue standpoint with, web design fees being taxable starting in October. That would be really beneficial. And it just, glancing at the contract, per the terms of the contract, 1/3 of the contract would be, basically the way it's written as I see it, I didn't read the whole contract, but 2/3 of that contract would be, due initially and payable before that October 1, income tax goes into effect. And so I think that would be, very beneficial, but so hopefully I implore you in 2 weeks, to get it done. Also, it should be part of the discussion when this $5,000 web hosting fee is due. So that's obviously a concern as a taxpayer as well, that we want to beat that. And 500 is, 10 times better than 5,000. So thank you, for your work. And I just, really encourage everybody to, work collaboratively and fiscally responsibly for, for the citizens of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Anybody online? No? Okay, that concludes our public comment. On to planning calendar. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So upcoming meeting, we do plan on starting with an executive session. We can do 6:30. A representative from WCA will come to present to the council about liability issues in the current environment. City Clerk Westman and I attended a training a couple of weeks ago where some of the information was a bit of a downer, and we think that's important for the City Council to understand from an insurance and liability standpoint. We'll address middle housing at the next meeting, and then we'll get into adopting the transportation improvement program that we discussed tonight, along with having the discussions on parks and swim capital improvement programs, and then we'll add the website back onto that agenda.
Questions for the, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So I see the PTA Reflections Visual Arts winner from Risdon Middle School. I know myself and Councilmember Sherlock added that. So Councilmember Sherlock, should we move it to the next meeting since it's June?
I would be in favor of that. And also, I just heard that he actually won nationally now. He's been moved up and he keeps winning. So,
So I
pretty
think,
cool.
So what do we need to do to move it to the next meeting?
You can move to put it on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Now would be the time to do that.
Motion? Okay. I move to put it in the PTA Reflections Visual Arts winner from Risdon Middle School in the next meeting.
Second.
What exactly are we motioning on? It just doesn't, what are we doing with this?
I'll be recognizing the kid.
Recognizing, so, okay, I didn't say that, so, okay?
Okay, yeah, recognition, yeah.
All right, so moved and seconded to
Recognize Aiden Lime.
recognize Aiden Lim
Yeah.
on the next agenda. Any comments?
So I think it's really, really important for us as a council to recognize outstanding Newcastle citizens. So, not like, Tony Ventrella, I wish when he was alive, right, but already passed away. But we have a current, so this will be inspiring and, to honor more. I hope it's just the beginning. Yeah, thank you.
I'd just like to add, we are already talking about youth council and youth board, and I think this is the right way to recognize the youth in the community. So.
Okay, so all in favor of moving it to the next agenda on June 17th, say? Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Tom? Jim? Aye, okay, 5-2. Okay, all right, move to the next agenda. Anything else, city manager?
That's all I got.
Okay, can I ask? I have a question. So you voted no. Would you please explain why it's the 5-2, right? I heard. So why don't you support to honor our outstanding resident, to honor outstanding youth?
Well, we're done with that issue, but, so we're actually concluded, but I'll be glad to answer your question. You know, my opinion, and it's no surprise to anybody in this public, is the government has a very limited role in people's lives. We do basic stuff. We do safety, which we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do infrastructure and finances. You know, we're not saying this person or this group or that activity is better than that or whatever. So that's my view of government. It's never changed, right? So that involves, you know, just doing the basics and moving on. Now, we do more than that, but I'm not going to change my opinion on that. So I hope that answers your question. So,
Thank you for answering my question,
Okay.
Mayor.
City manager, this isn't a agenda item, excuse me, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but I had asked you earlier, like a week or so ago, about the entrance on the north side, or excuse me, the west side of Coal Creek from the Bellevue maintenance still looks terrible. I mean, did we contacted Bellevue to clean up that? You know, people think that's Newcastle, and it really just looks awful, right?
Yeah,
The sidewalk and.
So, yes, we've tried to reach out. I have not heard anything back from them.
Okay, just wanted to follow up, okay. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, we are adjourned. Thank you.